Wouldn't you guys like to know what Kevin Hart said at 10X GrowthCon? I think you do. Well, if you do, stay tuned because it's coming next. What's up, guys? Kris Krāze here, and we are going to talk about what Kevin Hart said during his performance and speech, whatever you want to call it, at 10X GrowthCon this weekend. Of course, it's empty because everybody's gone, but they came and they went. But we'll be here next year too. Anyways, Kevin Hart was here today and it was mind-blowing. This guy's great. Everybody knows him for his comedy and everybody knows him for what he does. But guess what? He's really a businessman on the other side. You wouldn't know it because everybody sees his comedy, they see his movies, they see all his stuff, but you don't really think to the backstory. I did another video, I'm on here somewhere, maybe there's a link that said the most interesting facts that I found about 10X GrowthCon 2020, and Kevin Hart was mentioned in that video. But we're not going to talk about everybody else. We're just going to talk about Kevin Hart on this video because I really like him and I think he is dope. And I have a lot of respect for the man, as you should too, because he came from nothing and went to something. So what are some facts? What are some cool things about him specifically? Well, first and foremost, he runs his own show. I mentioned this on other videos, like I said, so if you've watched other ones, it may be a repeat. If you haven't, here it is for the first time. He runs his own show, and what ended up happening is he made a television series, and he wrote it, and he directed it, and he was ready to produce it, and basically the network shut him down early on and said no. No. Have you ever had that? It sucks. He calls it a gut-changing or a gut punch. And what happens from that is it's a setback. Well, what you could do from that is you could take it as a setback and leave it and sit and fester in it, or you can change and you can do something positive with that. And that's exactly what he did. He went forward, he took that experience, went out, wrote his own comedy, started booking his own shows, doing his own stuff. And then what ended up happening is once he came back with the network, his Laugh Out Loud, his shows, all his stats, showing that he could sell seats and stadiums and all this. And then he came back to the network and said, hey, guess what? I have a track record. I have proof. Here it is. Here's the numbers. Boom. And now he has proof that they need him and that the people will like his content. The network didn't want to do the content because they didn't know if people would like it. Networks are in it for money, Nielsen ratings, the whole 9 yards. You guys can Google all that on your own. I don't need to explain that here. But when he went back with the stats and he was able to tell them, look, here's the good stuff. Here's my track record. People like what I'm doing. And by the way, I have all these other countries and all these other people from different continents that are putting content out on my network. Bam, he calls it a necessity. They needed him now because it's not just a want, they needed him, and he was able to show them that he was able to deliver and be an asset to the company that wants to put him on the TV. So that's what happened there. Now, he also says that you have to be an expert at what you do, and then you provide the opportunity to do the same for somebody else. Now, his Laughing Out Loud network is the same exact purpose here, an example of why he did this, because when he became an expert at what he did, he knew the ropes, he knew how to get from point A to point B, going through the comedy clubs, trying to get all the networks and things like that. But what ended up happening is he said, look, I know that this is so hard for these other people to do. I want to bring this opportunity to somebody else and have somebody else be able to do this as well. And that's exactly what he did. That's why he started his network and started doing what he's doing. And it's been great. So coming back to the first one and running your own show. I talked about it a little bit, but I talked about the gut punch and this and that. So what he does, he actually runs his entire show from managing himself, doing his own contracts, which Floyd Mayweather also does as well. But Kevin Hart does this, and he does pretty much everything, promotions, ticket sales, everything himself in-house. Why? He does not have to pay another company any money for doing it for him. And basically he takes home about 95% of all the revenue from these shows. And what does that mean? The last tour that he did about 1.2 million seats sold, number of seats sold on the last tour. And he took home about $110 million from that tour. Would he have done that without doing everything himself? The answer is no. Take about 30, 40, 50% of that away, sometimes even more. These talent companies, management companies, promotion companies, it all costs. It's all people. Plus they mark it up. If you do it yourself, then you can take more profit home. But what he says is master it, learn about it, do it yourself, but put people in place that actually do it for you. They're just under your payroll. So you're still doing it, but they're under your payroll, and then you can manage them. You want to manage them enough to where you're not micromanaging them, but you're managing them enough to where they know what they're doing and you can guide them in the right direction. And therefore, you're the lead of the company. You're just having them do what you want them to do, to go in the direction you want them to go, while they still do their expertise within their realm of knowledge and within their lanes, so to say it. Stay in your lane, get it? Anyways, position yourself as a necessity so that you are needed. That was another big factor. We touched on that. And be selfless, not selfish. When you're selfless and you help other people, you're not selfish. You're really doing a good deed. Grant Cardone is selfless. He's helping other people. Okay, now people may want to say something, you know, oh, well, it always charges, or it's this, or an upcharge, or Tony Robbins, and all your things around here, you're always getting sold on something. Well, yes, of course, because if you give it away for free, there's no value to it. And this was actually a good takeaway from Russell Brunson on one of his last shows that I saw, is he said, look, I've offered some of my friends free tickets to come to my events and to use my products and to do what they do. And every person that I offered for free has never even logged on and used it or come to one of my events. Think about that. Now, that doesn't mean everybody, but that does mean that if you give it away for free, there's no value. If there's no value, somebody's not going to respect it. So putting a price point on it and having value, people are going to respect it, and they're going to come, they're going to show up. They've spent money on it. You're dumb if you spend money and you don't use it. But not on that. Let's talk about some other stuff. The setbacks. He was really important on that. Every setback he turned into something positive and really went forward from there. Money. Good lesson on money, he said. That he had troubles early on. IRS, everybody hates them, but you know what? You can't avoid them. If you try to, you'll go to jail. You don't want to do that, trust me. Things suck. Thing about Girls Gone Wild and some of these other stuff. These people evaded taxes. Where did they end up? They went to jail. So what happens? He said half of his money, this is what he does now. He takes half, whatever he makes, he takes half of that money and puts it away in a fund, and that's simply for taxes, IRS. Then of the other half, he takes half of that and puts it in the real estate, and then the other half goes to him. So really 1/4 of the money that you're getting when you have a business that comes in is the money that you keep. If you can live by that rule, then you'll be good. The other half or quarter total of whatever, maybe you don't want to do real estate, but you can put it in whatever you want. Just remember though, when you see the money come in as a business, and I'm a perfect example of this because I had to learn extreme hard way after multiple years in business, and getting hit with $150,000 with IRS taxes sucks. But I'll tell you, if you take that and you put just half of your money away for taxes, you'll be better off. And I'm taking my own advice right now. So what was the other one? Don't be afraid to ask dumb questions or seem like you're dumb or incompetent. Remember, the only dumb question asked is the question not asked. Okay? When you're asking questions, you simply want to know more. Who cares about what anybody else thinks or says around you? If that bothers you, think about it like this. Every person around you in a certain room or a certain event, you may never see that person again. Okay? For this context, think about it like that. You may never see them again, so who cares what they think? If they think it's a stupid question, guess what? They're the ones not asking questions. Maybe you're asking the question that they want to answer. So, think about that when you ask the questions. Don't care about them. Just make sure that you ask the questions that you want to ask. It's like your moment, and that's all that matters. When it's your moment, that's really all that matters. So don't think about them. Don't think about yourself being dumb, and don't look at it that way, because it's not. Anyways, the most important takeaway from this was be different, stand out, and don't be everyone else. Okay? You're asking, why am I wearing this shirt and why am I having these crazy pants on? Well, because I'm different and I stand out. I'm not getting attention, I'm just crazy. Kris Krāze, get it? Crazy? Well, regardless, none of that. But it is kind of a fashion statement, but the other part of it is I simply just don't care. So I do stand out. It's kind of a test to myself when I go out and I'm letting people know that I just don't care. I'm that guy that's like, hey, I don't care what you think of me. You know what? You could think that I'm probably broke, that I'm doing this and that. Well, guess what? I'm not flossing. I'm not representing something I'm not. It's a test to myself. That's why I do something like this. Regardless of how you do it, stand out. Be different. Okay? A lot of people talk, but guess what? What I say on my videos and what I say here is this. You're only doing one of two things. Maybe I change it to 3, but I'll tell you what the 2 are. You're either talking or you're doing. So you can't do both, okay? Talkers are talkers and doers are doers. I'm the guy that doesn't talk. I'll say something once, but I come in and I do it. You should be too. Use that as an example. Don't just sit there and talk, because as long as you're talking, you ain't doing nothing, okay? Now, I say there might be 3 because if you're talking or if you're posting, a lot of people post on social media and they're writing all these long blogs and all this stuff and this and that. Well, guess what? That's great. But as long as you're typing, you're also not doing anything. So the best way to use your time is to put it on a phone, voice record, video, have somebody else transcribe it, and just make purpose and use of your time. So that kind of goes into being different. Stand out. Don't do what everybody else is doing, which is taking their time to try to flow and try to go with the crowd and this and that. Perfect example of standing out. I guess maybe it's not a perfect example, but on the flight in here, the airport was shut down because the president was coming in or the vice president, and literally everything was gridlocked. And I said, you know what? How long is it going to take to get out of the airport? And everybody's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Well, I looked around and literally no car in any direction was moving at all for the last 15 minutes. And I said, if nobody else is moving and the cars are from here all the way out to the street, you know what? We ain't moving for about an hour and a half to 2 hours until it gets clear. I'm walking off of here. And that's exactly what I did. I walked off, got off the airport in about 15 minutes, so another 15, and then got an Uber, and I was out of there while people were still waiting in line. What is that? That's different.